Hi all, hope you've been staying safe and well. Today we're going to have a look at the character of Juliet, but we're going to focus on her presentation in the bits of the play that we've read up to together, which is Act 1 and Act 2. So this is very similar to the Romeo video, where we're just going to look at some key aspects of her personality, some key evidence that will help to support our understanding of the character of Juliet, and then a task for you to do at the end where you're going to have a look at those key quotations. This would be a really useful revision video, and I hope it's very useful for the future. Okay, so this video is broken up into different sections concerning Juliet's personality. So it's quite useful to look at her almost as a contrast to Romeo. So where Romeo appears very rash and very reckless in Act 1 and Act 2, Juliet is a lot more reserved and a lot more measured and actually a little bit more sensible in the way that she approaches life. She also has a rebellious streak. She goes against her parents, and she also challenges her role as a Capulet. So there's lots and lots of things that we can pick up from this, and obviously with each one of these there will be at least one or two or three different quotations that you will be able to hopefully be able to remember some aspects of, to be able to bring forward into your analysis of the character. So obviously take each section as it comes and then making your own notes as you go. The first aspect of Juliet's personality that I'd like to consider is the fact that Juliet is very independent and very strong-willed. We talked about this a little bit when we looked at the context of the play, that young girls in particular were meant to be subservient. They were meant to be obedient to their fathers, and then following that, obedient to their husbands, usually someone who their father would have arranged that wedding for. So Juliet is unusual in the sense of how independent, how strong-willed she is. We have some sort of respectful phrasing such as like "Madam, I am here" when her mother calls for her. However, when offered Paris's hand in marriage, Juliet says, "I will look to like," not straight away saying, "I will definitely do this." And she says, "I will look to enjoy Paris's company, and then maybe I'll consider marrying him." She doesn't immediately say yes. Likewise, when her mother asks if she's considered marriage, she says, "It is an honour I dream not of." It's not something that she has been considering. She is more independent. She is more strong-willed and strong-minded than just to accept blindly what someone else offers her. Even when Romeo in Act 2, Scene 2 says, "Will you leave me so unsatisfied?" she challenges him with, "What satisfaction can thou have tonight?" She's not willing to give up very easily. She's strong-willed and passionate, and someone who has her own mind and is not willing to let other people trample all over her feelings or her own desires. Okay, the second aspect of Juliet's personality that I'd like to consider is one that is a perfect parallel to what we see with Romeo, in the fact that she has a deep and meaningful love for him in the same way that he has a deep and meaningful love for her. When they first meet, she teases Romeo by offering him holy palmer's kiss, so palm to palm, and flirts with him in the sense of talking about this religious imagery when Romeo describes her lips as two blushing pilgrims. However, when she meets Romeo and they have this relationship, she talks in sort of wide metaphors, much the same way that Romeo does, about how passionate she feels about him and how her love is so powerful and strong. We have a description of her bounty is as boundless as the sea, saying her love will stretch on forever, and that all my fortunes at thy foot I'll lay. The fact that she'll give up everything to be with Romeo. This is a really sharp contrast to the strong-willed character we looked at in that first personality point. When she first sees Romeo, she says, "If he be married, my grave is like to be my wedding bed." The fact that she would rather die a widow than be with anyone else apart from Romeo. So Romeo has all these strong metaphorical images associated with light to do with Juliet, whereas Juliet has some very exaggerated, very hyperbolic descriptions about how endless her love is and how she would rather be dead than anyone else apart from Romeo. Another aspect of Juliet's personality that might be quite interesting to consider is her cautious nature in comparison to Romeo. So we have her describing the relationship as too rash, too unadvised, too sudden. So the fact that she sees things as happening far too quickly, and she uses that rule of three of too rash and unadvised and sudden to emphasize how she feels that everything's happening too quickly, that they need to be careful and they need to be cautious. She even tells Romeo that it would be death considering who thou art when he climbs back over the wall. She can't believe how reckless he has been. She sees potentially that their love is too like lightning, and she cautions Romeo against making false promises that he can't hope to keep. She says, swear not by the moon. She's not impressed by the fact that he's making these grand vows. She needs to see something a little bit more concrete in the way that he is behaving. So she is a little bit more cautious than Romeo in the way that he is very dramatic and very to the point, where she takes her time and takes a little bit more convincing to make sure that their relationship is going to hold. Another aspect of Juliet's personality we might want to consider is her confusion over her family loyalties. So when she finds out who Romeo is and the family that he belongs to, she uses this very famous quotation, "My only love sprung from my only hate," using this direct parallel and juxtaposition of hatred and love that Romeo's used as well. The fact that the only thing that she loves is the only thing that she is supposed to hate. And when she muses on this about Romeo when he's listening, but she doesn't know he's there, she says, "A rose by any other name would smell as sweet." So the fact that just because Romeo is a Montague doesn't change the other aspect of his personality and the things that she does love about him. She even says, "Deny thy father and refuse thy name," so change yourself from being a Montague, else I'll no longer be a Capulet. She's willing to give up the Capulet family name to be with Romeo. So the confusion over family loyalties is an important aspect, and it goes back to things like the respect of your parents. Does she follow her father's instructions, or because she is more independent and strong-willed than other girls in her society perhaps, is she more challenging than that? Does she have more to think about? The fact that she is even considering the love of Romeo is an important part of her personality, and how she's confused by the idea of conflict between the Montagues and the Capulets and the loyalty to her own family. Okay, so the final aspect of Juliet's personality that I've looked at here is something that we've touched on already, the fact that she is impressed by actions rather than words. So when Romeo breaks back into the house and professes his true love for Juliet, she needs more than that. She needs action. She needs to see something that's going to be meaningful and deep rather than just single words and phrases. So when she's waiting, she says, "Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?" She wants him there. She wants him to be as close as she possibly can. When he swears by the moon, she says, "Swear not by the moon, the inconstant moon." This is something that appears and disappears overnight. We need something stronger between us. I need something more concrete that I can base my love on. She actually asks him to swear by your good self, because that's the only thing that she's interested in really is Romeo as a person. She's not interested in what he's got to say about swearing by the moon or by the stars. She wants him to swear on it by himself, that he's trustworthy. And Juliet is impressed by the actions. She obviously is more cautious than Romeo is, but she's very impressed by the exchange of "thy love's faithful vow for mine." The fact that they're making vows and promises to each other heading towards the marriage is very, very significant, and she sees this as important. This is the aspect of Romeo that is most impressive to her. Okay, so for you to do, I have put here at the end of the video the full essay plan here, looking at all aspects of Juliet's personality that we've considered there. This is obviously available via Google Classroom as well if you'd like to download it. What I'd like you to do is to consider each of these quotations and just to annotate in a little bit of depth, looking at how Juliet's personality is presented in these opening 2 acts of the play. Have a look at it in a bit of depth, go back and have a look at each section of the video, see what we talked about there, and ideally pick out at least a couple of bits of language from each quotation that you could be able to remember. Even if it's single words and phrases, these would be really, really useful for exam revision. So have a go at that. If you stay tuned at the end today, we'll have today's film recommendation. Okay, so for today's film recommendation, I've gone for a Christopher Nolan story told in a very interesting 3-part structure where the stories overlap and interweave, and you only really see how they come together towards the very end, and that is Dunkirk. A fantastic story, obviously a true story, looking at the evacuation of the British troops from France during the Second World War. A really, really intense and gripping narrative, and some really incredibly tense set pieces in there as well. So it's a really engaging film. I'd encourage you to check it out. Until next time, make sure you're staying safe and take care.